Hello, greetings everyone. Payman Lorenzo here. Thank you for inviting me. I'm delighted to be part of this Wellness from Within Summit. Thank you, Mary, for inviting me. And I'm really delighted to come share my wisdom with you guys and my experiences. So as I said, my name is Payman Lorenzo. I'm the host and founder of the Leaders What podcast. I'm um, I'm a podcaster. I'm a four-time number one international best-selling author. I have a thriving academy, and as well as I'm a collector. I collect success stories, testimonials, and case studies. My business is helping my clients win, make them shine brighter than they're shining by helping them identify the true zone of genius. So what I do is I work with authors and coaches, help them launch their profitable podcast and YouTube channels, even if they have no audience, and so that they can get leads on demand, even if they have no audience, and without spamming, cold calling, cold DMing, and without ad spend. So that's what I do in a nutshell. But before talking about my business, I would like to share with you the two things that really changed my life, that led me on my path today, that allowed me to literally come back from hell and to be able to rebound, be reborn, save my life, and as a phoenix, find my purpose. And now living my purpose and really inspiring people and being the person that was meant to be. So I've been an expat for most of my life. I'm a Canadian expat currently based in Asia and Vietnam. I've been based in Asia for the last almost 10 years now. And before the pandemic, I was living in Hong Kong and in China trying to build a business around football, soccer. It didn't work out. I literally ran out of money. My credit cards were canceled. My credit destroyed back in 2019. If it wasn't for a friend of mine in Hong Kong that allowed me to stay at his place for a year for free, crashing on his couch, I would have been homeless. I would have been on the streets. I was living on $20 a week in Hong Kong, one of the most expensive cities in the world. And when the pandemic started, as I said, I was depressed, suicidal almost, broken in every aspect. I literally had to have my sister to book me a ticket to come back to Canada from Hong Kong. I'll never forget that day, Tuesday, 25th of February 2020, right at the start of the pandemic, landing at the Toronto Pearson International Airport with only $200 to my name. It's not a good place to be, but I never gave up. I never panicked. I knew I could get out, but I had no idea how. What saved me was what I'm gonna be sharing with you, understanding two powerful principles, not only in business, but also in life. The first one was understanding the tremendous power of questions and asking the right questions. Before that, before my awakening, so to speak, when something bad happened to me, I used to ask the wrong questions, disempowering questions, such as, why me? What did I do to deserve this? Why? And complain and whine like little bee. And when you whine and complain like little bee, nothing good comes out of it. You create a circle of negativity and vicious circle. And then I realized to ask better questions, more empowering questions, such as, doesn't matter what you're going through, whether it's heartbreak, financial struggles, trauma, abuse, addiction, tragedy, disease, doesn't matter what it is. Ask yourself this question, these two questions. What is this trying to teach me? What is a lesson for me to learn to that? That was the first step for me to understand that. The second piece of the puzzle for me to understand that was learning to listen to my inner voice, to my gut feeling, to my intuition, to that voice in my head, because that voice, that is your soul talking to you. And our soul has two purposes: one, protect you, keep you safe and alive, and two, guide you to the next phase of your journey in this lifetime. So if you put the two together, exactly 4 years ago, late July 2020, I was living with family in Toronto, completely having a late Saturday afternoon lunch, completely broke. An idea pops into my head. Start a podcast. What do you mean start a podcast? And it kept on coming for weeks. If you hear a voice or an intuition or a hunch just one time, that might be your mind talking to you. But if it keeps on coming and coming over a few days, few weeks, even a few months, then please stop. Listen to it, because again, that's your soul talking to you. So that voice insisted every day in my head, start a podcast, up until finally around mid-October, right on my birthday, October 2020, that's when I started my podcast. Unbeknownst to me, that has been the turning point, the single greatest decision of my life for the last 5 years that would completely change my life. So as I said, I was completely broke. I couldn't get a job because Canada was one of the strictest countries in terms of restriction during the pandemic. And we live in the countryside. So I started a podcast because I was bored and because there's nothing else to do. At first, I had no idea what to do. I was clueless. I was just using my podcast just to pass the time. I was on calls from 8 o'clock in the morning to 8 o'clock at night, having wonderful conversation with amazing people. And the podcast, soon I would realize that it would be a turning point, not only in my business, but my life, because it was becoming part of my ongoing education, talking to incredible experts, people with amazing, inspiring, empowering, uplifting, goosebump inducing stories, the stories that I could use myself to help me overcome and handle all the challenges I was going through myself at the time. And so for the first year, I didn't make a penny from the podcast. But what changed my life was then understanding another principle, and that was that business is not a numbers game. Sure, numbers matter, but ultimately it's a relationship nurturing process. So then a year went by, I didn't make a penny from my podcast, and then until I reached my 100th episode. And that's when things started to turn around. Remember what I said about the power of questions and asking the right question? So around a year later, October 2020, same situation, still broke, dinner with family, another idea pops into my head. Start an academy. What do you mean start an academy? And it kept on coming. So I had the bright and genius idea to start asking people. I would get on a call on Zoom. Hey, do you have your own podcast? 99% of them would say no. And then I asked them why. 3 reasons. I have no idea where to start, how to start. I'm not a techie, and I don't know how to get the right people to get on my podcast and how to grow it. And that's when it clicked in my head. I started to ask the people I was getting on calls one question that would change my life and eventually also their lives. And that was, would you be interested if I were to show you how to not only launch a podcast, but also build your platform so you can share your story, display your expertise, and in order to build rapport and trust with the exact ideal audience, even if you have no audience to start with and without spamming? I got a resounding yes. I got 6 clients in the first weekend. And then in the next 10 months, I was able to get 60 clients with a YouTube channel of less than 200 subscribers. Again, how is that possible? Because again, I understood that and I realized that business is not a numbers game. Sure, numbers matter, but ultimately it's a relationship nurturing process. We do business with people we like, relate, and trust. And so once I understood that, I started implementing it, and I was starting to see results. For the first time in my life, I was able to do something I really enjoy and get really paid really well for it. And also while also being very fulfilled and doing something really impactful. So doing this, now my podcast is a bit bigger, just under 1,400 subscribers, but still, it's not still very, very small. But that doesn't stop me from getting close to 100 high-ticket clients. And again, how is that possible? Because again, I don't use my podcast to sell, to pitch, to convince, none of that nonsense. I use my podcast to first get access to the people that normally I wouldn't be able to get access to. And then once I am in front of these people, I use my podcast to get to know them, to build rapport, to have a heart-to-heart conversation. Hey, tell me about you. What's your story? I want to know who's Mark, who's Mary, who's John, who's Deborah as a person, as a man, as a woman, as a human being, first and foremost, before the businessman. Because again, if we can't connect as human to human, man to man, woman to woman, man to woman, we're not going to talk, let alone do business with. And once you do have this trust, this rapport, then doing business becomes very natural. There's no need to sell, to pitch, to convince. There's no need to, I like to say in a funny, cheesy way, there's no need to seduce or kidnap someone to do business with. Hey, what do you do, man? What are you doing? What do you do, Mary? Oh, I help entrepreneurs, get the message across through books. Oh, wow. I've been looking to get my own book for a while. Could you help me? Sure, let's have a time to talk. See, there's no selling, pitching, proposals being sent back and forth, chasing, none of that. It's just, oh, let's set up a time to talk. Very natural. It's a natural, automatic, organic progression. And also, the main thing that I do, even though my offer is I help authors and coaches, sorry, to launch the profitable podcast within 3 weeks. And then once it's launched, help them to get leads on demand within 30 days and as little as 30 days, even if they have no audience to start with and without spamming and no ad spend. Because what I do is way deeper than just launching a podcast. And I tell my students on the first conversation I have, if all you're looking for is just to launch a podcast, you don't need me. All you need is just get a microphone from Amazon or from your local electronics store for under $100, and you're good to go. But what I do, because we're launching a podcast for business, we have to do it in a very strategic way. So what I do, we do deep work. What I do mainly is I tackle the number one reason why most coaches struggle to get any traction online, and that is because they lack clarity. And because they all want to help everyone with all of the issues. Oh, let me help you with your finances, your fitness, your relationships, your kitchen, your garden, your garage, and everything else under the sun. That's beautiful, but that's something only God can do. Me and you are not God. So what we need to do is focus on one very specific person for one very specific pain point. And how do we do that? How do we identify that? We do that by identifying what is your true zone of genius, what is your true gift. And once you've done that, once you've identified your true zone of genius, true gift, then it becomes very easy, very logical to identify what is the number one pain point you're solving and for who, and who's that person. Because again, all we're doing is simply looking at life, what major challenge we've overcome, and then share the story of how we've overcome that so that we can help the person that just 1, 2, 3, or 4 steps at most behind us going to that currently. Because again, when someone is hiring a coach, they're looking for someone that, again, just a few steps ahead of them, not the disconnected billionaire. So this is what I do. I help them identify the true zone of genius so we can identify the true gifts. And then we craft their messaging, their offer, their business, ultimately their podcast around that zone of genius of theirs. Because again, we want to be able to speak from the heart, because when you speak from the heart, that's where the magic happens. That's when people can really open up to you, can really start building trust, rapport, and all that good stuff. And again, because when it comes to high ticket selling, it's about one thing and one thing only. Start with a T, ends with a T, 5 letters. Can you guess what that is? Trust. How do you build trust? You build trust by building rapport. How do you build rapport? By having heart-to-heart conversation. And what's the best place to do so? Through your own podcast, your very own profitable podcast. And this is what I do. This is what I teach. And I'm incredibly blessed to be able to do so. Because in the process, podcasting has allowed me to not only get back on my feet in every aspect, I'm in the best shape now financially I've ever been. My credit is the highest ever. I've been living the life of my dreams. I'm now been living around the world just like I used to do before. The picture you see behind me, that's the swimming pool of the place I stayed 6 months in last year in Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia. Currently, I'm in Da Nang, Vietnam on the beach. Beautiful place. And podcasting has completely changed my life. Now it brought in so many incredible opportunities for me, such as I've become a 4-time #1 international bestselling author with Mary. I've done 4 books with her. As a result of that, I've also been invited to do a TEDx talk here in Da Nang, Vietnam on August 10. The topic is going to be exactly this very topic. The two inner wisdom, the secret to inner wisdom, life-changing wisdom within, the path to true happiness, success, and wisdom, which is understanding the tremendous power of questions and asking the right questions, and learning to listen to that inner voice, that gut feeling. So I'm beyond grateful for all this beautiful, incredibly life-changing blessing. But the greatest blessing that podcasting blessed me with was that of killing my shyness. I used to be incredibly painfully shy. I used to have not even zero, but negative self-esteem because I have a big nose, no hair. I used to be fat. People that know me from before always tell me, hey, what happened to you? Always online. You're super confident and all that, very outgoing. Did you make a pact with the devil? I said, no, absolutely not. Never did, I never will. I just found my purpose, my voice, my reason of being here. And once you do that, you become the person you're meant to be. You know, there's a saying that says the sky is the limit. I used to believe that, but then I realized the sky starts right where your head ends. So if that were the real sky, start of the sky, then that would be a very low limit. But then I realized the real limit is right here inside. The thoughts you entertain, the words you always, the story you tell yourself, the narrative you tell yourself. Because the words you tell yourself, they're very powerful. What you entertain in your mind, you speak, and what you speak, guess what? You manifest. Because what we are, we manifestors, we antennas. Whatever is your dominant thought, that's what you attract vibrationally, frequently. So once I realized that, and I implemented those two things, asking better questions, more empowering questions, learning to listen to my inner voice, my gut feeling, that my hunches, and understanding and realizing that business is not a numbers game, but a relationship nurturing process, that business is all about trust. Once I put all of these together, that's when my life started to turn around, to literally. Podcasting not only changed my life, transformed it, blessed in countless ways, but even in some ways, even saved it. Because again, I was broke. I was broken, depressed, credit card destroyed, credit destroyed, homeless, almost homeless, and almost suicidal. I was ready to throw in the towel. Why continue fighting? Nothing else was working. But then things turned around because I was able to dig within. We all have that capacity to dig within, to find your own wisdom, your own answers inside of you. So if you're a coach, an author, an entrepreneur, a thought leader, a professional, you cannot afford not to have your own podcast, because your podcast is going to be what's going to allow you to share your story, your gifts. We've all been blessed with phenomenal gifts. The fact that you made it this far in life, that's a powerful story. Your story matters. You matter. Your voice matters. And what's the best way? One of the best ways, if not the best way to share that, is to having your own podcast, not just any podcast, but profitable podcast. And once you're able to dig inside of yourself, ask yourself better questions, more empowering questions, such as, what is this trying to teach me? What is a lesson for me to learn through that, no matter what it is? Because again, life is a school. We come here to learn, grow, and become wiser and better. But that's only 5% of why we are here. The 95% is taking those gifts, those wisdoms, those experiences, and then share them with others so we can all collectively rise and grow and inspire others, uplift everyone around us and around the world. So, and I have an invitation for you guys. I am going to be hosting my next free 5-day podcast lead challenge on the week of Monday, the 29th of July to Friday, the 2nd of August. About an hour a day, I'm going to be sharing all the reason. I'm going to be showing exactly how you can leverage your own podcast to get leads on demand, even if you have no audience, and without spamming. It's going to be free. It's going to be very fun, highly interactive, and truly transformational if you apply what I'm going to be teaching you, because it completely changed my life, transformed it, saved it in many ways. Not just for me, but for all of the attendees. Everyone that's gone through it has been glowing about it. So the link to register is podcastleadschallenge.com, podcastleadschallenge.com. We're kicking off on Monday, July 29th at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 Pacific. And for those of you in Australia, it's going to be on Tuesday, the 30th of September, 30th of July at 10 a.m. Sydney time. So again, podcastleadschallenge.com. I'm very excited. I'm honored. I'm delighted to be able to help you, to serve you, and to inspire you to identify your own zone of genius, your own gifts, and then so you can embrace them loud and proud and share them even louder and prouder through your own profitable podcast, so you can get leads on demand, grow your business, make the money you deserve to make, so you can help the people around you and around the world at the highest level. So signing out, thank you very much for this opportunity, for this invitation, for this calling, so to speak. And I'm looking forward to seeing you soon. Take care. Cheers.